Hey everybody, I'm Amanda with DevExpress and welcome to today's webinar, CodeRush for Beginners Diving Deeper, presented by Mark Miller, Chief Scientist of the IDE team, and DevExpress Technical Evangelist, Paul Usher. In this session, we'll learn more about CodeRush features and how to customize them. We'll dive into templates, selection embedding, refactorings, code providers, and code cleanup, plus see more configuration options. There will also be a live Q&A at the end of this presentation, so please feel free to enter your questions or comments in the questions section of your GoToWebinar control panel. Thank you so much for joining us. I will now hand things over to Mark Miller.
Thanks so much, Amanda. Paul from the land down under, how you doing?
Excellent, Mark. Thank you. Good morning, everybody.
Good. Yeah, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world right now, and as you listen to this, welcome. I am a little bit under the weather, a little bit sick today, so hopefully that won't affect the broadcast or the quality of this in any way, but my voice is a little bit different, and I might mute from time to time as I do the things that sick people do. And at those times, Paul is going to jump right in and say professional things. That's what's going to happen. So, all right. So we got a lot to cover, and I thought what we would do is start off talking about templates to begin with. This is a continuation of a previous lesson where we said, you know, let's get started, get CodeRush configured, and so in this one, I thought what we would do is we talk about actually creating a new template. And so I asked Paul for some sample code, and I've been saying this for like 10 to 20 years, and every time I say it, people are shocked. Excuse me, to hear me say this, but I am not a database programmer. So the code that I'm seeing on screen is not code that I'm familiar with. It's just it's something that I rarely do. So but I asked Paul for some of this code, and Paul, you can we'll start by explaining where this code came from and what it does.
Okay, so one of the key things that I find when doing development is there's a lot of repetitive code. In this example here, it's nice and simple. We're simply setting up a SQL connection and firing a common command. So I select something from a table and then iterating through that record set to do something else with it. And what I wanted to do was look at how we could use CodeRush to make that almost, well, appear in seconds. And Mark, you assured me that we could do that.
This is code that you see we see again and again in database applications, and the pieces that change it are maybe here, or maybe you have more parameters. Maybe there's some other minor changes, but essentially you're opening a connection and you're executing it in some way. Is that right,
That's
Paul?
right. So for example, the products table there would be something that I'd want to change regularly, or the actual field that I'm limiting by being category, right, the parameter name. So they're things, if I had a stored procedure with 10 parameters, I've got 10 parameter adds to do, and I want a quick way of achieving that.
Got it. And how would you describe what this code does? If you were to come up with the most succinct way to describe this section of code, and the reason I'm asking is because I'm trying to come up with an abbreviation for it that we can remember that'll be the template name for it. How would you like to remember this code? What does this code do?
I'd think of something such as database read, so DBR, or something nice and simple.
DBR. Okay, so we'll do that. All right, so we start with the code, and then I'm going to select the code, cut it to the clipboard, and we're going to bring it into the template editor. To select quickly in CodeRush, there's a feature called Selection Increase. And I think to Windows, I've got the keys plugin from last time, so you can see the keys that I press as I press them. Let's see if that's working. We've got to right-click to enable that. And so now I can hit num+ on the keyboard if I've got a numeric keyboard to increase selection by logical blocks. Num- brings it back and reverses that. And I think there were some other ones as well. There are other bindings as well. By the way, the shortcut, if you have the links, Paul, and you can find the link to the shortcut keys, you can get that and find out what the alternatives for selection increase are. But I'll typically come in and I'll increase the selection. If I know it's just like the block, like the using block, I'll start with the caret here, and then I just hit num+ once. It just grabs the whole thing. So it's a quick way to get it. I also, if I'm going to put it right on the clipboard, all I have to do is just hit the Control-C to copy or Control-Insert to copy, or Shift Delete to cut. For example, if I just hit Shift Delete here, it'll cut that whole block to the clipboard. So it's a quick way to get that whole block onto the clipboard. And then I can go in DevExpress options, and in here I can click on the template button right here. And we're right now working in C#, so you can see we've got a C# file in the back. The language selected is C#, so we want those to match up. And now I'll come in here. I'm going to create a new folder, and I'll call this My Templates. So my custom templates are going to go here. It's a really good idea to organize and put your templates in folders that make sense. We ship a whole bunch of templates that are in organized folders already, so to follow that pattern is a good idea. So let's say call it My Templates. And it put it here because that was the folder that was selected last. I really want that to be in the root, so I'm going to just right-click this and say Move to Root. That, and now it's moved to out to the root right there. Now I'm going to add a new template to it. Paul said he wants to call this DBR, for Database Read.
Now, Mark, what happens if that template name's already in use?
Okay. So, well, right now we don't have a way that says, hey, it's in use. This is obviously in use. What we can do is we can come up here and we can search for it. We can type in DBR, hit this, and we can see it's only showing up here at this location. So we know there's only one of these that's here. Excellent. But what if it was, and if there's conflict? There are a number of ways to resolve conflict. One of them is it may be that the new template we create always fires all the time, and the other one that it conflicts with never does. That's a likely possibility. It may be also that we define context for this, where we say, we'll use this only in this situation. Like we, for example, might use this only if we're in an application that references a DLL that's used in database applications. Okay. And we might also further restrict context to say, this can only expand inside a method or inside a property getter or setter. Okay. So if we restrict context on this, we can actually have conflicts, and it's not a problem. And I'll show you how to do that too. We can look at that. But let's now paste in our expansion up here. Let's go full screen so we can see more code. Slide this down. And so here's what we have. Here's the code that we have in here. Oops. And I'm just going to unindent that. I don't have to really unindent or do any formatting because what happens is by default when a template expands, CodeRush calls the Visual Studio language service for whichever language is active, either C# or VB or whatever the template is expanding in, and then reformats the block of code that just expanded. So let's just start with this, and we'll just say OK, and we'll just test it out. So now we'll come in here, and we'll type in DBR, spacebar to expand it, or tab key. Remember which one it is. When we installed the default, let's use the tab key to expand. So tab key might be the one for you. And that's what we get. Looks like we're getting an extra carriage return at the end. I'm going to clean that up when we come back in here. What do you think, Paul? What's your reaction to this so far?
Well, that's going to save me typing, but now I've got to copy and delete things. So what can we do?
Well, tell me what. So this looks like something that you would change, right? I'm looking at like what do you need to copy and delete? Let's talk about what those things are. Go ahead. What do you want to say?
Let's leave the connection string. But for example, right now, if I was using that, I'd have to highlight products and change it to something else.
You want to change this? Okay. So how do we solve that problem? Let's go ahead and do that so that, because right now when it was done expanding here, I'll show it to you one more time. We're here to do DBR. Where's the caret? The caret is this flashing thing right here, right, that helps us to define the selection, move up and down. It's right here at the end of this line, on the empty line when it's done. What we really want is we want it to maybe be here in front of products. So let's make those two changes. We'll get rid of the ending extra line and we'll put the caret in front of products. So here's how we do it. DevExpress options. Come up into here. We want the caret here in products, so we put the caret there. We come down here and we click this button that says it positions the caret. And we just click it and it inserts a code to put the caret right there. There's the code. Okay? And we come down here and we're going to just delete that extra line. Click OK. And now use selection increase, delete, and then delete the extra line, and then I'll type in DBR again, space, and now we're closer. So now all Paul has to do is select products. But we could actually select products. So save Paul a step. So let's do that. So we'll come back in. I'm going to now hit a shortcut, Control-Shift-O, to bring up the options page. And if we want to select, we have the caret on one side. On the other side, we're going to put this, the block anchor. So click that. It gives me block anchor right there. And now I'm going to click OK. Come down in here, type in DBR. And now products is selected. So that's not bad. Now we can select. So select from products. So this is the table name, right? Table name. So Paul would type in the table name there. How's this so far for you, Paul? What are you thinking?
Yeah, that's okay, but there might not be a default. Can we have it so that it adds a prompt there for me instead?
Yes, we can do that. So instead of table, well, you had products. Do you want it to say table name, or do you want it to say something else?
No, table name would be a good start.
All right. So let's do that. Go in again. I'm gonna hit Control-Shift-O. So we could simply just change this text right here. But what we really want to do, I think, and actually, you know, it really comes to, you know, something that, here, let's do this. We'll pop a field in here. We'll call this table name. So let me explain what I just did again one more time, kind of in slow motion here. So this bit right here, I popped in a field, which is this thing, this orange bar piece right here. And I suppose if we do nothing else, let's just click OK on that. And we'll expand it one more time. Type in DBR. And now we see table name, and it's got an orange box around it, and something new has appeared, and it says last text field active. And when it says we press enter, it accepts the field and activates the target. The target is, in this case, at the end of the line, but we can actually put it anywhere in here. So if I, for example, hit table name, and I type in whatever I want it to be, like products or whatever that'll be, when I hit enter, the caret comes out to the end of the line, right there. Okay? However, we've got this other thing that says where category equals category, right? My sense is you want to make some changes here too, Paul. Is that right?
Absolutely.
Like
so
that
could be, well, that needs to prompt me for whatever column name I might want to apply this filter by. So as we did table name, let's put something like...
so this is column name.
Yeah.
And this is, what is this @ symbol right here? This is a parameter?
That's an input parameter, so yes.
So is it convention to make these equal to the same? Because we started with category equals @ category. And so, go ahead.
So certainly, my preferred method is to have the parameter match the column name.
Okay.
Keeps everything simple.
All right, so we want to have another field here, and we want to sync these up. So let's do that. Let's set that up. So to add another field, this one, I'm just going to take that, delete it, click the field button, and type in column name, like that. And so that will give me the other field. Now let's just look at that right there. We won't do anything else. We'll just see how that change affects it. Click OK. Come over here. Come in and say DBR. Table name. Type it in, whatever I want it to be. Products, I guess we called it, or something like that. And then column name. You can type in whatever we want it to be here. Category. And then hit enter. And it gets me to the end. So not bad, but it didn't actually keep this in sync. What it started with was something, you know, column name, and we didn't really have anything over here that stayed in sync. But the cool thing that we saw here, the cool thing about this is when we had two fields, when we're done here, and I hit enter, I go to the next part, and it's selected for me. And now I can type in whatever this is going to be, sales or something like that, right? So fields let us go through and have multiple places where we can make changes. Now, to sync two things up, let's change this from a field to something called a link, like this. Call it column name, and we'll put a column name over here. So now we've got something called a link. Let's click OK and see how it changes. DBR, okay, table name, whatever, my table, enter. And it just goes to the end of the line. But what happens when we put the caret on column name? Now we can change it. Okay, we can edit it in either place. Changes in one, propagate to, whoops, I hit a space there, to the other. Okay, So that's how we can connect these up. They're linked. These are
So
linked.
can that go to more than one then? So we can do that on the parameter below?
Yes, we can. Let's do that. So let's take that linked column name and put it here as well. Okay? So good. Look at it one more time. Now we've kind of taken a step backwards in a way and taken a step forwards at the same time. We lost our field, right? When I specify my table and I hit enter, we're done and go to the end of the line. It's no longer a field. However, we've gained the ability to sync them all up. Okay? That's cool. So, and like I say, you can edit it in any of the spots and they all light up. You can see, right? You know, whatever that's going to be. So, here's the thing. Excuse me. So we've lost that. We want to really get that back. We want to actually have the best of both worlds. And I'll show you how to do that. Go into options again one more time. I'm going to take the first one, this first column name. I'm just going to cut column name to clipboard. I'm going to get rid of link right here. And I'm going to instead use this one, this button, which combines the green and the orange. The green are the links, the orange are the fields. So this shows you how to do both at once. And it looks a little bit different. Instead of seeing field, we see field start and then field end with link in the middle. And then I'm just going to paste in the column name there. And we're going to click OK. And so we'll now come in here and we'll say DBR, DBR space, and then my table, whatever this is, it looks like I got caps lock on, enter, and what is it? My param, whatever that's going to be. And now I've got a field here, and they're all linked up. I can hit enter, and now I'm at the end of the line. Okay.
That is cool.
All right, so we're getting closer. However, when I hit enter on the last field, do I really want the caret here, or do I want it somewhere else, Paul? Do I want it here maybe, or do I want it down inside of here? Where do I want after I'm done finishing this line?
Do something with the record here would be a good place for it.
Okay, so we want to come in here. That's what we want to do. Okay, so let's do that. Go to options again, and I think I don't need this comment. I don't know. I guess we'll keep it if you want. But what I'm doing is I'm going to an empty line, and I'm just going to come in here and click this final target. That puts it right there. Click OK. And we'll look at that change and how it's affecting the template. So type in DBR. I hit the space bar, expansion key, my table, enter, category, enter, and the caret's now right here. Okay.
Now, say we made a typo or we needed to modify that slightly. On the parameter field, as pointed out by Bradley, we're missing the @ symbol in front of the field name.
Right here?
Yep, so obviously we can jump in and just append that in there first.
To the template. We can fix the template to do that. Okay. What about this right here? Some connection string. What do you think? What are your thoughts on this?
Well, generally what I would have is a database helper class and be passing in just a static connection string, or it might be coming from the environment settings, the settings file in a connection string. So,
like that. You have something like this where this is a class.
Yep.
Like that. Okay. And then
So just explain what you just did there, Mark.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, sometimes I do that without explaining. This is why you're here. So
this is one of the refactorings that we wanted to show.
So let me jump back to so I typed in what you were suggesting, and then I put the caret here. I hit the CodeRush key. We saw a little bit of this in the last session, and I chose declare class, and it's giving me a public static string called connection string. But if I want to just change this into a constant, I could do that too. QS will give me a constant. I paste that in, specify the value, whatever that's going to be, like that, and then I can just change it to public, like that. So the connection string is now visible. And I'm just tabbing between the two. Okay? So it's kind of a quick way to do it. Before we saw declare class, remember in the last webinar, when we did declare class, it did it in another file. And then somebody asks, well, wait, what if I want to do it in this file? And we change the options. So by default, it's going to stick it in another file, but we still have some options changed from the last webinar. So I'll just go in there and say move type to file. Hit the CodeRush key, choose move type to file, and bring it over in there. So typically, Paul is saying that he does something like this. Okay? And if Paul, you were totally consistent in every single way that you used your creation of your SQL connections, right? You might change the template to always insert this. But I'm thinking, from the standpoint of, hey, making this template useful to other people and putting it out, what we might want to do is make that. Well, let's do two things. Let's do this. Let me ask you this: is that connection string maybe used anywhere else?
Anywhere that I may have other SQL methods anyway. So yes.
All right. So let's do this. Let's say let's do this. Let's select the text that we think is going to maybe be used in other templates. In other words, let's say that this is one of our database templates we're creating, but we also might create other ones that also make use of the same connection string. That's my question, right? Would we use that same connection string in other templates? And if the answer is yes, what we can do is we can do something called extract template. It's like the refactoring extract method, but it creates a new template for you and calls out to it. And the advantage of it is that you can, excuse me, the advantage is that you can have one location where common code in the template goes that you can change, and it changes all the other templates that use that. So it's very powerful. So we right-click the selection, choose Extract Template, and I think in this case, what I like to do, if I extract a template that I'm not actually going to type in directly, but just has reusable code, I like to make it really, I like to put pound signs on either side and then give it a long name, like connection string. And the reason I do this is because I want to make it something that I'm not likely to type in, as something I really want in VB or C# or C++ or Java source code, right? You're unlikely to type in this as real code anywhere in any of these languages. Maybe you might type it in as a string itself in a rare case situation, but I'm essentially trying to avoid naming collision. So that's what I do right there. I just give it a good, meaningful name, and I do that. So it's now given us a new one called connection string. So now what happens is this piece comes out, and it calls out, and this one is replaced. It's replaced with this. So if for example, we were doing this and then we send it to Paul, who's always using the example I discussed, he might come in here and just modify the one template, change it to database helper.connection string, and he'd be done. So that's cool. The other thing I think I really want to do is I want to come in here, and I'm going to cut this to the clipboard. I'm going to come down here, click Field, and I'm going to paste it in because I want it to be a field by default. And I'm going to move the caret and the selection piece up to it. So I'm going to cut that caret and move it up around here so that this is the first one selected. Because here's the thing: we don't say if you don't. Hold on a second. Let me get it right back. Field connection string. Let's call it the template. And let's do that. Let me just expand this, make sure this works. Like I'm expecting it to. Oops. All right, there we go. All right, so it works. And so now we have a field around it. And so now so Paul would make the change to this. He'd just hit enter, and then he'd get to the next piece like this. The thing I was going to say about moving the caret and the block anchor, we allow you the flexibility of being able to specify any field or any location at all as where the caret and or the block anchor will be. And then the only thing that happens is, for example, I could say this is my start, and then it would cycle through my fields, this field, then that field, and then it would jump up to here, to the top. And when I finally hit enter here, then it would jump down into here. So it gives you the flexibility of deciding which field is going to be the first one. However, if you insert a new field above it, what was already the first one, you have to do what I just did, which is take the caret, take the anchor, and move them up, like I just did. Let's look at it one more time, because I feel like my explanatory powers were weak there. So we just moved the caret up to there and the block anchor up to here. Okay? All right. All right. So what are you thinking, Paul? Are we done with this?
So on the parameter there, instead of passing in the arbitrary value of 1, generally I'd have a property that would be matching that parameter name as well. So looking at what you've done there, I should be able to just insert a new link with column name. Is that right?
Yes. So we could say, yeah, you could totally do that. Oh wait, we forgot to put the @ symbol in here. That was the fix we needed to make there. Okay. And then here we could do this. Yes.
Now,
okay. Go ahead.
That's all looking fantastic, Mike. But as I said before, I might have up to 10 parameters I want to add. So what can we do to speed that up?
Okay. Well, there were a couple things. One is you could, for example, write a template that iterated through all of your properties, for example, your public properties in the class, and added a parameter automatically for each one. You could do that if you wanted to. So you have one template that just goes through and creates parameters for all of them. However, I don't know if that's likely or scenario or not, and I kind of get the feeling you want to, and even if you don't, the other way is to individually have control of each one of these. So we can create a template that just did that, right? Just did this kind of adding that parameter piece right there. I'm going to copy this to the clipboard. What would you call this? Like I'm thinking CPA for command parameter add, or would you call it? Okay, you would?
CPA would be good.
All right, so let's do this. So I'm going to just come in here. I'm going to click on new template, CPA. We'll paste this in and we'll work with this. So parameters, add, and so here we have linked column name. This I think we'll put the marker caret around this. And the anchor over here. And let's just see what we got with there. So we have a link, but we don't have a field though. So we kind of want to create a field around this as well. So what I'll do is I'll take column name, I'll get rid of the link. So I'm right between the caret and the block anchor right there. I'll click this button here, and then I'll paste it back in. The column name right in there. So I have field start, a link, and the field end, and then the block anchor. Right? So let's click OK here and see what we get. So we come up here, we type in CPA. Excuse me. And then we get whatever the column name is going to be. We're going to say whatever category. You see it's link up on both sides. I'm going to hit enter. And now I'm over here, and then we have to define category, but that's okay. Coders can help us. We can say declare property auto implemented, for example.
So we're going to throw a bit of a curveball here for you, Mark.
No. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
SQL DB type. Now, obviously, that's an enumerated type. What that could be anything, as you can see from the list. Now, there are some standards that we'd use, but how do we get to maybe select that in line?
Okay, so you want to select this, and then allow somebody to change this. That's what we want to do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or is there a way that we can shortcut that and, do I create new templates for each variant of it, or what's the best way?
Well, let's talk about the different options. By the way, if you go into the templates, if you're working on a template and it's not selected, but usually if it's the last template selected, expanded rather, it'll be selected in here. Sorry, strike the word usually from that. If it's the last template selected, expanded, it will be selected when you bring up the template editor. But I expanded a different template, so it's not there. I actually see it in the middle of the screen, but I can also search for it. Just type in CPA here and get to it. So let's first start with this. Let's start with the point where we want to just change this. And I think you know how to do it by now. You just click on insert a field, paste in the int there, and we click OK. And now if we come in here, we type in CPA. Right? There's our column name, whatever we call it, category. Hit enter. We come over here, and I can backspace to here, hit control space to bring up IntelliSense, grab decimal, for example, hit enter, and now I'm at the end of the line. Okay? So that's one way to do it. The cool advantage of that is that it's easy to remember. It's CPA. Okay. However, I'm going to drop a marker here. Excuse me. A bit of review. We were talking about templates last time, and templates can be you can combine. One of the really cool things about CodeRush templates. Let me bring up the training window. Bring it over here on the side and dock it. And I think we saw some of this before. But if I want to create a method, I type in the letter M. If I want a method that returns, for example, a string, I type in M followed by an S. And over on the left here, you can see that's what it will give me, a method that returns a string. Or I want a method that returns a Boolean, I can type in MB. So a lot of CodeRush is this kind of combo kind of thing with the templates, right? Where you know one thing is M is method, and I know B is Boolean. And maybe I also know that V is variable. And the demo I wanted to do last time that I didn't do, that I love doing in VB, is the demo that looks like this, where I say, hey, let's say I want to create a variable of type string. Here, I just type in VS, and so it's going to be a field. What? All right, now I'm confused as to why that isn't expanding. Is it because I need to... Oh, that's really strange. Do I have the same problem with like M? Huh, I don't know why the VB stuff is not expanding. I'll look into it later. I don't want to like debug it right now. But in general, what's supposed to be happening, what you should be seeing, is the same thing that that we saw on the other side. But the thing I was going to demo with the variables is that VS here would give it in the syntax for a field, which in VB is different from its syntax in the parameters, which is also different from its syntax as for locals. So that was the demo that you didn't see, and I'll investigate it. Next time we do a webinar, we'll go back and do that demo so you can see it, because it's actually really a very cool, impressive demo. Okay, so all right, so back over here. So we're talking about this and how we can kind of improve this. And we talked about, so example, MB gives me a method that returns a Boolean, like that, and MS is a method that returns a string. And then if I want to use P for properties, I can do a PB for property of type Boolean, like that, and I can type in PS for property of type string. Right, so it's very fast to build these up. Okay, to build these pieces up. So why not use that same kind of idea for this, where I don't really have the same types, but I do have. Oops, I'm not seeing the IntelliSense come up here on this. So, and I do have still the preview version of 2013. I don't have the final version on here because I wanted to continue where we left off from the last webinar with everything the same. But so I don't have that. And actually, full disclosure is I considered upgrading, and I was looking at the time and I was thinking, I don't think the upgrade is going to is guaranteed to finish in about the 40 minutes that I have. So I didn't do it. So. So at any rate, the IntelliSense that we're not seeing here shows us things like we saw decimal, we saw int, but there are other things inside of SQL DB type as well. Let's see if I can jump to them. There we go. So you can see what these are. So they don't exactly map over. For example, I see no bool here, but I think bit is bool. Isn't that right? Is that right or no?
That's what I'd use it for, yes.
Okay. So it doesn't quite connect, but I'll show you how to do that and how we can make this all work with just a little bit of work on our part. So let's we'll go ahead and we'll delete this block. We're going to come back over to the template editor. We're going to type in CPA, and what we want to do is we want to change this so this works really well, and it just spits that out. So here's how we do it. We're going to go over, and by the way, you have to be, in order to make this work, this next page, to see it, you have to switch your level from new user to at least to advanced, okay? Because this is, what we do is we hide a number of the pages over here, so new users don't see sophisticated pages. But one of the advanced pages you can go to is, there's a link to it right up here, it's called Dynamic Lists. And if we click on that, and we get to it, we get to this piece right here. What do we want to do? Is we could keep this in the C# world, but this is really a .NET thing. That .NET enum we just looked at is the same in both VB and C#. So So instead of creating separate lists for both languages, we just go to neutral, and we create a new list. And the name of this is going to be, what was that called again? It was like SQL DB types.
Yeah.
DB type enum elements, like this. And then the variable, this is the important piece. We're going to call this SQL DB type, I think. Okay? This variable name shows up elsewhere. So whatever we call this, give the name to this. And by the way, what am I doing? I should probably say this, right? What is going on? And let me click OK for a second. Let me show you some of the things that we have here. So we have the SQL DB type enum elements. That's this list. Let's show you some of the other lists so you can get a sense of what's going on inside of here. Let's look at like system types, for example. So here we have B maps to system.boolean. Huh. I remember Mark typed in M followed by a B, and he got he got a Boolean. But wait, let's go over into templates, and let's go back into C#. Boom. Let's type in MB and see what happens. MB. Wait, we get to something different from what Mark said. Let's see if there are any others. Oh, this is a message. This is a message box show. That's not a method. More message box show, and then back to M followed by type. M followed by B. What if I type in MS and I hit search? It only hits here. I can come down over here and I hit search. It gives me back over there. So method that's a string. Right? What happens if I type in PS for property type string? I get the P followed by type in question marks. Okay, maybe something's going on. So let's go back over to the list. Click on neutral. Go into this, what was it, system types we were in? Okay. We go down in here and we look at S. Let's sort by name. And we go to S. It's system.string. I think I'm figuring out what Mark's doing. Also, the variable name is type. Look at this. It's all starting to make sense. So what we're doing here is we're creating a list of essentially mnemonic pieces that will add to the template name when we expand it, and a value associated with that element that we can use inside the template. It's incredibly cool stuff. So for example, the letter S won't be system string. What is S inside of the SQL DB type? What is a string? Is it a string? What is it? Varchar.
Varchar.
Like this, right?
That's it.
Okay, click add. Okay, what about Boolean? We said it was bit, right? So B goes to bit. Click add. What else? We did int. What about, we didn't do it. Int is what? Is it integer?
Int.
Yeah. Is there an equivalent or no?
INT.
INT, like that. And then, oh, that's right. We saw it. And then is there
date.
like date? Okay, so in CodeRush, D8 means date. That's a mnemonic we use for date. For decimal, we use D E, and for double, we use D. So we use D8 for date. And so date is what? Is this date or date time or what is it?
Date time.
And with a T, uppercase T, I mean, like that?
Definitely with a T.
I mean uppercase T, though. Are you mocking me? Are you mocking me?
Never,
all right.
Never.
All right. So we created a simple list. I'm sorry, go ahead. What do you want to say, Paul?
So say, for example, we've got something like a float, which in code I might call a double or a float.
Yeah.
Can we have more than one variable pointing to the same thing?
Yes. So you have more than one mnemonic pointing to the same result. For example, we use S for string for varchar, but what if somebody wanted to use VC for that? It should still work. So we just type in VC for varchar and click add. And so both of those will work. All right. So we've taken care of the first part. Remember, the name is SQL DB type. Okay? I'm going to click apply down here, come back over here to the templates page, click on C#, type in CPA, and we're just going to kind of follow what we saw before. So CPA is trans parameter add, and I'm going to change this, put a question mark, and type in SQL DB type question mark, like that. So I've changed the name of this. So now it's going to be CPA followed by any of those mnemonics. And once we have that mnemonic, we're going to put it in right here. And the way we do it is we right-click, we choose Insert String Provider, we type in get, and get takes a parameter, and the parameter it takes in is SQL DB type, the same name. And I think that's going to be it. Let's click OK and try it. So now we'll type in first DVR. Whoops, I keep hitting tab key there. Hit the space bar because that's mine. Hit enter, blah, 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 all the way down. And now we're going to come in here. We're going to type in CPA followed by B for bit. Okay, cool.
That is cool.
Started, something like that. Like that. We're going to type in CPA followed by BC for varchar. And then we get the varchar coming in, right?
Okay, now with varchar, we've got this small problem, Mark. Usually we have to specify the size of the string. So, but only applies. Well, I only want it to apply to varchar. So if you press, if there's an optional parameter there.
This one.
That's
what you want.
Now,
So
there's no way you're telling me we can deal with that.
No, right. There's no way at all. And now the webinar's over. It's done. So, okay. So for varchar, if it's a varchar, you want the size specified. You want to change the template so it looks like this. Is that right?
That's it.
Oh, Paul. Okay, I think we're doing a webinar only on templates today, is what it feels like to me almost. But what's our time look like anyway? 43, yeah. All right, Paul. Okay, so I hope, by the way, the folks out there are actually database programmers who are getting some value here, or at least have template ideas that they can use this for. Okay, so we've got, it's going in right here. That's where it's going in, size, right there. Okay?
Yep.
So let's do this. Let's select it, including the comma. Choose extract template. I'm going to call this optional size. Like this. Okay? That's the template name. This is what it looks like. What do you want that to be there? What are we passing in?
Well, it's an integer and an say default of 50.
It's a default of 50. So I'm going to type in 50, but I'm going to make it a field. So I'm going to click this button and paste it in field. Okay? Happy with everything? You're happy with everything so far, right?
Well, you got to show me it working first.
Okay. Paul, you could also just say, yes, I'm happy, or no, I'm not. How the heck are you going to make it work, right? It's all you're doing is going to it. You have no logic yet, right? And you're right, I don't have logic, so let's add the logic. And the way we're going to do it is with context. So we're going to come down in here into context, and down inside of system, there is a context called variable matches. And we're going to check that. And we're going to go into parameters, and the parameter string that we're going to check against is the SQL DB type variable. Okay? When you do this right here, when you put something in question marks, you automatically get a free variable of that name, SQL DB type. The value of that variable is whatever the value is in the list that corresponds to the letters you typed in. So if you type in VC here, you're going to get varchar. If you type in S, you're going to get varchar. Okay? So this context variable matches right here takes two parameters. The first one is the variable name. The second is the value to compare against. And if those are equal, it's going to return true. And this is the context. All right. So now let's try CPAI for an int. Okay. Expected, category, whatever that's going to be. Enter. Go out to the end of the line. Okay. Let's type in CPA B. I'm still like, tension building, right? The bit comes out like that. Let's type in CPA S. Look at that. Sir, or name, whatever it's going to be. Name, enter. And now we're on the sides.
Excellent.
Excellent! It's awesome. It's really awesome. There's so much that you can do. Now, one of the things I talked about that we haven't shown yet is this idea of saying, let's iterate through all of the fields in my class, and let's just build these automatically for each one, which you could do. Or what happens if we're like, actually, let's look at this. Let's say we rename this right here. So I'm going to call this command. And let's come down here and type in CPA S, for example. Oh, we're broke. How do we fix that? I'll show you. We'll come in and we're going to say, let's see, it's in the DVR one. And we'll just or a little bit high here. So the problem is here in CMD. What we really want to do is we want to replace that with, I think it's a string provider. Type in local here. Nearest local of type. And now we just have to figure out the type. Hold on, let me click OK. I'm going to come back in because I don't know what the type is of this. It's of type SQL command, which is
system.data.sql client.
That's what I need. I need the full type name of it, okay? So we can find it. So I'm just going to paste this in for a second just so I can get the whole thing on the clipboard like this. Boom. Come back in to my options and paste it here, okay? Like that. And then it looks like I also use it down here. Wait, I don't need it down there. Oh, you know what? I don't need it here, actually. That's not where I need it. I need it here. The reason I thought I was needing it here, and then I was like, oh wait, I don't need it here because I'm actually declaring it here. Right? 1, 2, 3.
Yep, makes sense.
However, I just thought of another way to make this template better. Hold on a second. And I don't need it. So I need it here, nearest local of type, and then we grab it. So let's show that fix, and then I'm going to come back in and make that other template better. So here we go. We're going to come down in here. So now we've renamed it. Now I'm going to type in CPAS. And now look, it's got command. It found it. Right? It found the nearest local of that type. And we don't have to have it fully declared like that. Right? So it's going to work. CPAB. Got it? Okay.
Excellent.
Now, let's say that we expand the DBR. I'm talking about making it better. We do DBR, right? Let's say we do this, and somebody says, you know what, I really want to rename this, or I want to rename, this. Well, in each one of the case, I have to actually hit the F2 key to rename it. Wouldn't it be nice if we just made it so they were already linked up? Excuse me. So we can do that. DevExpress options. We can go in here, and it's easy to do. You've kind of seen it already. We just come in here, and we're just going to get the link, grab the green one, boom, and grab it. And now everywhere I want to use it, I'm going to just replace the CMD with the link. Like that. Now I can do the same with RS as well. I'll change this to RS. And the cool thing about this, so what we're doing is we're setting up links, but we're not actually setting them up as fields. And this is really useful for templates like this that you're going to share, for example, publicly share them. Here we go, click OK. And I'll show you how to do that next, how to share templates. But now let's expand it. DBR. And boom, boom, boom. So now what's cool about this is somebody says, oh, you know what, I really want to rename command. They just go to it, and it's all set, hooked up and linked up for them now. So that's a way, way to make it a little bit nicer. So you can do that if you want. Or not. It's, again, this is like a kind of a choice that, whether you want to do this or not. Notice that these links, though, I will say this. There's one disadvantage I just considered, and that is if I come in here, let's say I come in here and I say, I type in command. So I'm not actually doing a CodeRush rename. I'm just doing the links. Okay, that's cool. I come down here and I type in CPAB, okay, which gets command. But now look, the new one I typed in is not linked because these links are not a rename link, right? So I want to get them all hooked up. I have to hit the F2 key, and now they're all hooked up. So it's kind of a slight disadvantage in that you see some greens, and it may lead you to believe that everything is linked up when it's not.
So I've saved 400 or 500 keystrokes, but have to press F2. I can work with that.
Right. Yes, you have to do that. What else? So I'm looking at the time. It's about 10:50 right now. I can go in quickly. I promised I would talk about refactorings. I don't know. I think I said selection embedding as well. I can go into those quickly, but do we have any questions on anything we've covered so far that I should go into?
No, there's no unanswered questions at the moment.
All right, great. Love that. Okay, so let's talk about selection embedding. Let's say I want to put all this in a try-catch. I can just come in here and I can just hit the letter C to embed inside of a try-catch block, and then hit escape to get back down into it. So that is an example of a selection embedding. I can also hit the letter F on a selection and embed in a try-finally. I'm just hitting undo now to get back to where I was. So there are a number of selection embeddings. They're also available to you if you right-click and choose embed selection. You can see the pieces that are there that are available to you, including a comment box, which is kind of cool if you want to do that. Okay. These, by the way, you have full access to all of these, and you can define your own. If you come up here and you type in embed, see it. Selection embedding. Okay, so you can see all of these pieces, how they're defined here. There are a lot of different kinds of embeddings that are available to you. You can embed side to side, top to bottom, surrounding, kind of a start at the beginning, a unique piece, at the end, a unique piece, and then the same's on the ends, or just a unique piece at the beginning and end. So lots of different ways to do that. I'm going to hit cancel because I'm kind of actually changing the definition of those pieces. You can also, by the way, call your own custom functions from here as well. For example, toString calls a function escape quotes, which will escape out any quotes in the selection to start with a slash in front of them. So that's kind of cool. So I'm going to show just maybe a couple refactorings, I think, and then we'll get out of here. Is what I think. Okay. So one of the refactorings, I think I may have shown a little bit about this before, but I'll just kind of do them pretty quickly, and you can pause this and look at the keystrokes down below that I'm pressing, and pause it. I'm going to start by doing an introduce format item here. So we're going to pass in the table name. Then I'm going to hit the CodeRush refactor key, and I'm going to choose promote to parameter. So we'll do that. So now we've got table name coming in there. So it's just about 4 keystrokes. Look at the changes I just made. Right? I've now made it where I'm passing in the table name into this get products method. Okay? I'm going to cycle visibility by hitting Alt down, arrow. Oh wait, did we move? Oh, this is a Visual Studio 2000. I have to be right here. This is a Visual Studio 2013 issue because they take Alt down for something else. So anyway, I'm cycling visibility here, Alt down and Alt up, and making it public. Let's take maybe column name out as well. Let's take these pieces. I'm going to comment this out for now, and we'll just assume that that totally works. We'll pass in this right here. We're going to do some format item here too, column name, and I'm going to take in this and do this with it right like that. Now come on over here, choose promote to parameter, right? Got these 2 pieces out here. Now let's do something called reorder parameters. So reordering parameters is here, right arrow, move it across. When I'm done, I can move these. Imagine I had more parameters. When I'm done, I can just hit enter like that to have the order that I want. Let's go back and bring it back to the other way. Okay, reordering parameters, that's solution-wide, so it goes through and updates all calls to this. Let's say I want to take both of these and combine these together. So I can select these 2 parameters, and I can say convert to tuple, for example, and now all calls will do it. In fact, let's make a call here so you can see this actually working. So we'll come down in here, we'll create a new method. Remember M for method. Expand it out, call get products. I need to see, enter, enter. And then we're going to come down inside here and we're going to say get products, and we'll say table name, and then column name, whatever that's going to be, column name. Okay, semicolon to get out. So there's my call. Tab the next reference to get up there. You scroll so you can see both of these on screen at once. All right. Now we're going to come in here and we're going to say, let's do a convert to tuple. Now you can see the code preview hit shows you what's going to happen. In fact, if there was a screenshot about CodeRush that was pretty killer to show everybody what it can do, this is a kind of a killer screenshot because it's actually giving me a preview in the code of what is going to change, including at the calling side, right? It shows me what's going to happen so I can see that. Also, we can introduce a parameter object to it. Let's do that instead. We'll introduce a parameter object to it. So we'll do that. And now it's calling it get product args. We're just going to call this the, yeah, what the heck, I'll keep that name. Maybe I'll call it args. Like that. And then I hit enter, and now I'm coming over here, and now here's the struct that was created for me. You can see the constructor for it. Okay? So that's all good. Let's go take this and move type to file. Okay. Let's do tab the next reference. There we can see everywhere it's showing up. There you can see there's the call. Initializes a new one of those. So any places where we had old calls passing in parameters, we now are creating a new instance of that product arg piece and passing it in. And so that's kind of cool. I can also do something like this, where I can say, if I have this situation where I'm passing in an object, and I realize, oh, you know what I really want to do? I really want to do something. In fact, let's do this first. Let's selection increase. Come in here, introduce a local for this, and my prod arms like that. Okay, and let's go over here, and let's say that inside of here, let's say we weren't using column name. Let's just replace this first. And so what I'm doing is, I'm not making a change that we would normally make in the code, but what I'm doing is setting up code that might exist. So you have a situation where you have a method called getProducts. You're passing in an object, and inside you're accessing one of the elements of the object, like table name. Well, table name is a string, and getProductArgs is kind of a very sophisticated class, or struct at least, right? And what you might want to do is you might want to make this method so it can be called from places that only really have access to a string and don't really want to create a getProductArgs instance. As an example, with test cases, with testing, right? With creating test cases. So what you might want to do is say, well, you know what? I want to change this method. So instead of requiring the sophisticated object, really, let's just pass in table name because that's all we really need. And so you can do that with a refactoring called decompose parameter. And what it does is it takes the parameter and it takes what you really need and gives it to you instead. And take a look at what's happening on screen, including down here in the call. Whoops, decompose parameter. Down here it's taking, oh, let's just pass in product args table name. So we'll do that. Okay. And now we've changed it. Let's undo. Undo again. So now we have both of these in here. Let's see what happens with decompose parameter now. Now it gives us both parameters. It gives us two parameters because it sees we're using both of them. Okay. In fact, I might even, let's even, go even a step further and say, do this. Where we take this and we say introduce a local here, and we'll call this just connection string. Oh, this is a great feature. Alt plus Shift and left to right arrow selects or moves by the camel case characters. Now, delete this, change it to just connection string like that, which is what I wanted to do. And now come down here and we say if args dot connection string is not equal to null, or maybe it's not equal to, we'll do both, or not equal to null. So a couple things here. End space gives me null, or end tab gets me null like that. Also here I typed in or space, and it got me this. Okay. So let's declare this now. If it's not equal to null, then what we're going to do is we're going to say our local connection string is equal to args connection string. Like that. Semicolon. Okay. So let's put the caret on this. Declare the property is auto-implemented. CodeRush asks us where do you want to put it. Use the up and down arrows. Hit enter. There it is. We get to see it. This is another cool feature about CodeRush. When your factor takes you out to the location, now that we're totally happy with it, we want to make any changes we can. We hit escape to get back. Okay? So this happens all the time with CodeRush. So let's take you to where the code you just took away, or you just extracted or whatever, let you look at it, and when you're happy, you hit one key, escape to get back. Okay? I should be able to consolidate both of these, use this null or empty. Let's do that. So if it's not null or empty, then we assign and use it here. So now we have a third parameter here that we're using inside of getProducts. And so now we come up here and we come in and we say decompose parameter, and now we get connection string, table name, and column name. And look, for connection string 1, or for the first parameter, it turned it into a 1 because it saw the conflict locally, the naming conflict. If we hold down the control key, by the way, when this is up, it makes the menu go away, and we can see the preview hit behind it. That's a nice thing. Okay, Paul, with that, looks like I'm right at an hour. Amanda, with that, I'm going to answer any questions, and I'm going to say wrap it up. I think I covered most of what I said, what I promised I would cover. There's loads more. We can do this again. You want to do this again, Paul, in 2 weeks?
Absolutely. I mean, one of the things, just in summary, in just a small piece of code, we've seen template expansion, embedding templates within templates, dynamic lists, and so much. I mean, this was a bit of DB code, but can be applied to everything, and so much time can be saved. Now, there's no actual questions outstanding.
Yay.
Kelvin's just said, yes, please, more. So we'll certainly get something scheduled there. But as far as what we said we'd cover, there's so much power inside the template editor. And from what you've shown, it's not that difficult to start to build and build a little bit and keep expanding it until you end up with that raw power.
Yeah. And it's cool, too, because, you know, I think I did promise I'd talk a little bit about context. For example, let's look at this. And because I remember I promised that, and I just want to get in and fulfill that promise. I type in DBR here, and I hit the space bar. It expands, and I'm totally in an illegal place for the code to be, right? Doesn't make any sense, okay? So we want to fix that. So I'll fix that. I'll show you how to fix that. With something called context. We saw a little bit about it before. Go into templates, and DBR, there it is right there. And here, we don't have any context set for it yet, but we can specify what the context is going to be. And I can say in a code block, this is a very commonly used context. So if you hover over these, it tells you what's going on. Satisfied when the editor caret is inside a method or property, but not inside a string or comment. So this is basically where code goes, is another way of thinking about in-code block. We now set that to OK. And now if we come down here, we type in DBR now. Out here, we hit spacebar, nothing happens. But we come up here, and we get rid of this. We type in DBR, we hit spacebar. It expands like we're expecting. Okay. If we come inside a string, and we say, you know, whatever, stir, press that, and we're typing in DBR here, and spacebar, nothing happens, because it knows we're in a string. Okay? So context is a great way to get your templates to only expand where you want them to expand. Same thing, comment here, DBR space, nothing happens. It's only if I use it where it belongs, right there, it will expand out.
Excellent. One question that's just come in, are there any thoughts of bringing ncrunch functionality into CodeRush?
Yeah, we have lots of thoughts about this. I think that I think the best thing I can say is I really like what ncrunch has done a lot, and we are looking into it. But it's not a promise at any. I'm not giving you a promise of anything other than we like it, we like what we see, and we think if it was inside of CodeRush, it would be cool. Functionality because it's ncrunch-like functionality. Okay.
Excellent. Amanda, are you there?
Amanda? She'll come in here.
I am.
There she is, right there.
There I am.
We are done.
Another question did just pop in too.
Okay.
Any ideas on when 1.8 is coming out?
I'm not sure about 1.8, but the next version of CodeRush is 13.2, and that is expected at the end of the year.
Okay, if you're talking about 13.1.8, which is the the minor update for VS 2013, then that's scheduled for this week.
Ah, got it. I'm like 1.8. I'm like, yeah.
Sorry, it was cryptic.
That's why you're here, Paul. Sometimes I don't get those things. Sometimes I'm not working, my head's not in that spot. Jessica has a question about, is there a way to export templates? I promised I would show it, and I didn't show it. So that's like the other thing. I just want to just click in and show that visually so people can see that. DevExpress options. And this is actually the other cool thing about setting up your own folder. You can export a folder of templates. So one of the ways to share the settings is to go in and choose to right-click and choose Export Folder, and then specify a location for that wherever you want to put it. And here it says, notice it says C#, which is the language, right? And then My Templates, which is the folder name, okay? And it's an XML file. So we just say save. And then now let's say we'll delete this and get rid of it. And now, if we're somebody else, you can take that XML file, email it to a friend, and then right-click. They can right-click inside the template editor. They have to make sure that they're in the right language, make sure they're in C#, and choose Import Templates, and then grab it. And it'll bring it in, and there they are, right there. So that's one way to share just a couple templates. If you want to share the entire folder, what you can do is you can put the, let's see here, the core settings. you specify a storage folder for user settings and log files. So you can select a location that's on the network, for example, that all your developers have access to, or on Dropbox, for example, that all your machines have access to. And that's where your settings can come from. So it's simply a matter of doing this and specifying where this will be on each individual machine. And if it's the same, that's great. Or if it's different, that can work okay. That can work as well. As an example, where it would be different, it might be a thumb drive, for example. You might have a different drive letter. Okay, but that's a way to kind of share settings so that when you make a change to your templates, those changes are seen everywhere. And the next time your team members or you start up, like on a different machine, it'll load those settings up. Or the next time they bring up the options page, it'll load those settings up. So for example, you could come in here, like if we were on a team, we could come in here and modify, for example, connection string and to whatever that's going to be, and then hit apply, and then send a note out to all the other developers saying, hey, bring up your templates page and click OK, because you're going to get the new connection string. So that's all they need to do is just bring up the templates options page and click OK, and now they have everything, all the changes you've made. So it's another way to share settings. Okay?
Excellent. Awesome. All right, so great questions. And our next session, webinar session, is via MSDN, and it is on November 12th at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Get started with Azure using DevExpress ASP.NET. Azure is rapidly becoming the developer's choice for cloud computing. It's fast, powerful, and it's free to get started. There are also a lot of different aspects and options to consider, and our very own Paul Usher and Mehul Hari will help demystify some of the questions facing developers who want to embrace the cool technologies Azure provides. In this MSDN webcast, you'll see how to create a new Azure account and create a website. Then using Visual Studio 2013 and the DevExpress toolset, the guys will create a stunning ASP.NET MVC website demonstrating just how easy it is to build a powerful data-driven site. So you can register for that at devexpress.com/webinars. You can also check back there for upcoming webinar sessions. I'm sure we'll be doing another CodeRush one. We'll schedule as soon as this one's over.
Yeah,
all right, everybody.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say, I'm thinking about doing it on, maybe I shouldn't promise anything at this point, but I'm thinking about maybe focusing on navigation. I don't know, Paul. We can maybe talk about it between now and then. If anybody has any suggestions they want to send in some specific areas of the product they would like to see more covered sooner, you can send me an email, markm@devexpress.com. Okay? I'm sorry, Amanda. Go ahead.
It's okay, Mark. Also, you'll notice that when you exit this webinar, you will see a short survey. It's just 2 questions. Please take a second to give us your feedback. We really appreciate it. All right, thanks to Mark, Paul, and Rory, who's answering questions on our back end. And of course, thank you all for joining us. And thanks for choosing DevExpress. Bye-bye, everybody.